What's going on, guys? Welcome to another World of Warcraft video. Today I'm going to be discussing the top 5 best villains in WoW. Now this is my personal opinion, you might not agree and that's cool. Also take note that I will mainly be talking in past tense as if the villains are currently alive and undefeated, so let's get started. At number 5 we have Cthulhu. Cthulhu is an old god that created the Karaji and resides within the city of Ahn'Qiraj in Silithus. He appears in World of Warcraft as the final encounter in the Temple of Ahn'Qiraj, implemented in patch 1.9. As one of the 4 old gods who were known to be among the most powerful beings that ever walked in Azeroth. Now Cthulhu ruled over the young world. Azeroth was overwhelmed by elemental storms and the old gods held tyranny over it. For countless ages, Cthulhu slept and watched as races evolved, fought each other, saw the Legion invade, and still created plans for the future, its future. In the desert into which it fell, Cthulhu found primitive life forms known as the Silithid. The old god created avatars from the Silithid in its own image. These avatars were to be known as the Karaji, a sapient race which would come and occupy the western lands of Kalimdor. The great fortress city of Ahn'Qiraj was created to house their growing armies and prepare for the coming of Cthulhu. Centuries later, the gates of Ahn'Qiraj had been reopened and the war reached its conclusion. Rumours circulated that Cthulhu is present here with its great horrifying lidless eye, surrounded by a sea of tentacles, and would vaporise every ignorant mortal who thinks of daring to challenge its supreme power and the right to the world of Azeroth. Mortal heroes battled both the Silithid and the Karaji to reach the heart of the great temple of Ahn'Qiraj, where the old god was defeated and his invasion into Azeroth was halted. After Cthulhu was defeated, his remnants were brought to Kalistraza. At number 4 we have Nefarian. Nefarian, also known as Blackwing, is a black dragon and the eldest son of Deathwing. He appears in his human guise as Lord Victor Nefarious, the Lord of Blackrock. Holding the Blackrock clan and various clans of ogres under his control, Nefarian rules from his lair at the top of Blackrock Spire. Let's get into Nefarian's background. The Black Dragonfly was among the greatest threats to mortal life the world has ever known. Led by the fallen aspect, Deathwing, the Black Dragons ravaged and subverted the kingdoms of humanity and elves for generations. Yet, during the Battle of Grimbatal, Deathwing was defeated by his fellow aspects, though he managed to escape complete destruction at their hands. While he was regaining his strength in Deepholm, the random destruction indicates no direct control over his diabolical fight. Since Deathwing's departure, his eldest children have arisen to lead their brethren and recoup their falling numbers. Deathwing's eldest son, the malicious, cunning Nefarian, has claimed the burning fortress of Blackrock Spire and Blackwing Lair as his eyrie. In Blackrock, aided by his loyal Dragonspawn, he fights a constant battle with Ragnaros and his forces for control over the mountain, and ultimately control of the entire region. To this end, he made efforts to bolster his forces, like his father Deathwing in ages past. Nefarian delights in capturing Ragnaros' elemental minions and using them for his own insidious purposes. Nefarian appears to have been resurrected to some degree of undeath and is featured in the Cataclysm expansion. It is located in Blackwing Descent. Indeed, Nefarian continues his experiments to create the most powerful dragon with the help of Malarak. At number 3 we have Kel'Thuzad. Kel'Thuzad was the founder of the Cult of the Damned and one of the principal agents for the Lich King, responsible for spreading of the plague and undeath across Lordaeron. Originally a human mage of the Kirin Tor, Kel'Thuzad was swayed under the influence of the Lich King. After bringing the plague to Lordaeron under his pretense of being under the orders of Mal'Ganis, he was slain by Arthas. Arthas then resurrected him as a Lich so he could summon Archimonde, the Defiler, into Azeroth. Following Arthas' departure from Northrend, Kel'Thuzad was left to command the Scourge of Lordaeron from his necropolis, Naxxramas. Following his first defeat, he and his necropolis moved to Northrend. By the period short before the Second War, Kel'Thuzad was a member of the Council of the Six, the High Council of the Kirin Tor, the Masters of Dalaran. Of the Kirin Tor's leaders, Kel'Thuzad was one of the most eager to gain access to the Guardian's Library, the depository of knowledge hoarded by Medivh in his Tower of Karazhan, and thus was most upset when the library was lost. After Medivh's death, Kel'Thuzad and the other senior members of the Kirin Tor questioned Medivh's apprentice, Khadgar, about what happened. Kel'Thuzad seemed particularly interested in discovering more about the mysterious order of Tirisfal. which, as he pointed out to Antonidas, the leader of the Kirintor, was relevant when discussing Medivh. A handful of powerful individuals scattered across the world heard the Lich King's mental summons from Northrend. Most notable of them was Archmage Kel'Thuzad from the magical nation of Dalaran. Kel'Thuzad was one of the senior members of the Kirintor, Dalaran's ruling council, and had been considered a maverick for years due to his insistence on studying the forbidden arts of necromancy. Driven to learn all he could of the magical world and its shadowy wonders, he was frustrated by what he saw as his peers' outmoded and unimaginative precepts. Upon hearing the powerful summons from Northrend, the Archmage bent all of his considerable will to communicating with the mysterious voice. Convinced that the Kirintor was too squeamish to seize power and knowledge inherent in the dark arts, he vowed to learn what he could from the immensely powerful being named the Lich King. At number 2 we have Kil'jaeden. Kil'jaeden is a powerful Eredar demon lord and is the acting leader of the Burning Legion. Elected 25,000 years ago, is the chief lieutenant of Sargeras. He was ranked above the demon lord Archimonde. While Archimonde had led the Legion's armies, Kil'jaeden's agenda was to assimilate every race possible into the folds of the Burning Legion. Since the apparent banishment of Sargeras and the death of Archimonde, he has assumed the role of Supreme Commander. 25 millennia ago, the world of Argus was the home of the wondrous Eredar civilization, a race of natural magic wielders. Kil'jaeden, respected for his intelligence, a genius among a race of geniuses, quickly rose to become one of the 3 most prominent leaders of the Eredar, along with his colleague Archimonde and best friend Velen. For those who don't know, Velen is the leader of the Draenei. Kil'jaeden had loved Velen as a brother. Eredar society was shattered when these 3 leaders were contacted by Sargeras the Destroyer. Sargeras offered a deal. In exchange for their loyalty, the Eredar would gain untold power and prestige. Kil'jaeden and Archimonde readily accepted, though Velen held back. Kil'jaeden made his World of Warcraft appearance with the release of the Sunwell Plateau, the 25-man raid introduced in patch 2.4. He appears as a combination of Manare Eredar and the winged Horned Demon appearance as seen in the manual to World of Warcraft 2. Players face off against Kil'jaeden himself, who is being summoned into Azeroth through the Sunwell itself by his new lieutenant Kel'Thas Sunstrider. Anvina, the embodiment of the Sunwell's energies, is held in an arcane barrier, her powers being drained to feed the portal, but later in the encounter she is sacrificed to weaken the Deceiver, who can then successfully be banished into the Nether. And finally at number 1 we've got Arthas, the Lich King. He's my all-time favourite villain due to the fact that I've got so many great nostalgic memories of battling him, and he's a complete badass lore-wise. The Lich King is the master and the lord of the Scourge, which he rules telepathically from the frozen throne atop of the ice-crowned glacier. Kil'jaeden created the Lich King from the spirit of the Orcish shaman Ner'zhul to create an undead army to conquer Azeroth for the Burning Legion. Initially trapped within the frozen throne with Frostmourne, the Lich King eventually betrayed Kil'jaeden and merged with the human Arthas Menethil. With the destruction of Frostmourne and the death of Arthas, Bolvar Fordragon took the powers of the Lich King within himself, imprisoning the Master of the Scourge within the frozen throne once more. When Ner'zhul attempted to escape Draenor, he was immediately apprehended by the Demon Lord Kil'jaeden, who enacted the blood pact that Ner'zhul had sworn many years earlier. Kil'jaeden ravaged and destroyed his body, but kept his spirit alive and encased it in a block of ice from the Twisting Nether. Kil'jaeden granted him increased power, including that over death itself. Ner'zhul ceased to exist and the Lich King was created. The Lich King was sent to Azeroth through the Great Dark Beyond, landing in Northrend where the ice that encased him formed into the shape of a throne, the Frozen Throne. Here he will begin the formation of the Undead Scourge, and in the process weaken the world in preparation for the Burning Legion. This new army would not fall victim to the petty infighting that had caused the Orcs to fail conquering Azeroth earlier. Sent to watch over him were the Dreadlords, led by Tichondrius himself. Within the Frozen Throne, the Lich King experimented with his psychic powers and enslaved the local indigenous lifeforms. The plague of undeath that came from the Frozen Throne transformed each of them into his undead servants. Thus, using his psychic and necromantic powers, he was able to conquer much of Northrend. As he devoured much more and more souls, he only grew in power, as the individual undead under his control gave him the much-needed nourishment. Thus, his powers began growing at an exponential rate, a fact that the Dreadlords were well aware of and kept a good eye on him. The Lich King entered a war with the kingdom of Azjol Nerub, whose ancient inhabitants were immune to his plague of undeath, The 10-year conflict known as the War of the Spider ultimately ended with the Lich King's first major triumph. While the Nerubians were immune to the plague, their corpses could still be reanimated. The Lich King was impressed by his enemy, however, and adopted a Nerubian architecture for his own, as a testament to the Spider Lord's tenancy and age. Having now established control over most of Northrend, the Dreadlords urged Nezul to proceed with the agreed upon plan to prepare the world for the invasion of the Burning Legion. The Lich King then used his telepathy to reach out into Azeroth and summon any dark soul that would hear his call. Kel'Thuzad, a mage and a prominent member of the Dalaran's Kirintor, answered his call. Kel'Thuzad was soon ensnared by the Lich King, faithfully serving him as the first cult of the Damned, a cult that would worship the Lich King as a god and be taught necromancy to better aid their undead armies. When the Lich King awakened in the Wrath of the Lich King expansion, he silenced his own heart, believing that anything that made him at all mortal made him weak. Okay guys, so that's pretty much a brief lore coverage of my 5 favourite World of Warcraft villains of all time. I would have covered them in more depth, however it would have been a long ass video, so yeah. Also stay tuned, when Legion comes out I'm going to be making a lot more videos. It's just quite hard at the minute because there's a bit of a content drought, so you know, I don't really have many ideas. So thank you for watching. Drop it, bomb.